So Mozart wrote quite a few of these sonatas for piano and violin throughout his life. And after having explored about 95% of them, I would say there's really not a bad one. And this one, K376 in F major, is actually one of my very, very favorite to play and to listen to. And it's actually not one of those that's the most performed. So I'm really excited to share that with you. And I'm sure Mozart can express better in his music than in my words, his spirit, his joy, and everything of his genius. So enjoy this work. Smetana wrote these 2 violin pieces called From My Homeland toward the end of his life when he was very ill. He actually lost his hearing and had to quit his job as a conductor in Prague. And as a musician, that must be really devastating. But interestingly, lots of the works that were born around this time ended up being the most memorable works of his to us, which includes his From My Life string quartet and My Fatherland, the symphonic poems, and this From My Homeland violin piano 2 movements. And I'm sharing with you the second movement today. And I think it's a fantastic work for the violin repertoire. But at the same time, you can see a theme from these pieces, my life, my homeland, my fatherland, that it's almost like he's reflecting on what is the most dear to his mind and his heart. He actually said it himself when he was writing From My Life, the string quartet, that his intention was to create the sound portrait of his life. So enjoy this work From My Homeland. I've been playing the Bach Chaconne for almost 20 years. It's a piece I started playing when I was 16, and I have tried to learn it and delve more into it many, many times in my life. And I am very excited to share this with you because this piece means a lot to me. And I'm sure it also means a lot to a lot of violinists because it's definitely one of the greatest works in our repertoire. It's in the form of theme and variations, and it's actually the last movement of his D minor Partita. I've always found this piece to be an incredible journey to learn and to play through, because not only it is hard to be perfect when you have to focus for 15 minutes straight and there's no other sound, just you playing and crafting this whole performance. And at the same time, you can also see he writes note by note to put into this whole picture. And you can see his experimentation on how he can try different ideas to make variations. And then sometimes he does the inverted version of his previous idea. He tries to expand further on the previous idea. And he just keeps going till 32 variations later. And it's this incredible work. And one very interesting fact is that when a big moment, when it changes to D major, that's actually only middle of a variation. And so from this piece, you can see that, I mean, at least what I get from it is that we're so imperfect and being human is imperfect. But when we try very hard, we can strive for something and we just might achieve something that can mean a lot to another human being, the way Bach has created this to mean so much to us. So I'm really excited to share this work with you. I hope you enjoy my performance after 20 years.
It was just an extraordinary performance. Just the whole thing, from the Mozart through the Smetana to the Bach. I was so grateful, actually, for the silence of the internet and the credits at the end, because that piece is so extraordinarily moving. And in your hands, it became really such a just a direct expression of from the composer's heart through his brain, through his pen to us, and we thank you. I thank you heartily for that. It was
Thank you
just
so much, Paul.
wonderful, just wonderful. Just before we start answering questions, I'm just here to remind you that 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 you can type it into the Zoom chat feature. And Jen, who's sitting here, Jennifer, my wife, is going to read the questions out, and we'll transfer them. But first, I just want to say what a wonderful performance! Isn't that, the Mozart is so extraordinary, isn't it? Why
Good
do you think
piece.
that's not so well known? You said it was maybe a more obscure sonata.
Well, I think I don't know why it's not well known. I think violinists tend not to explore so much um, the rest of them. I mean, I feel like violinists play the 301, 304, 454 a lot, and then a couple of the other ones often, like 378, and then um, 526, and but then the ones everything else are all so great. But I think it's just people don't venture out as much, because how many Mozart sonatas are you going to program in your recitals? In your lifetime. I feel like that's why.
Exactly. I think if you were a cellist, you'd play all of them, because you wouldn't have as many. Yeah, if only we had a Mozart sonata. But, and then that wonderful Smetana, which is, you know, in some ways, it's such a popular piece that it's often taken for granted. But when you play it with the fire that you have, a thought occurred to me as I was listening to you play it, which was that he was probably in some ways, his deafness was putting him into a kind of self his own a self exile, really. He, without having to go anywhere, he was being exiled from his country. And I wonder if you think that that's why he went back to writing music from his homeland, even though that's where he was living at the time.
Yeah,
And
so
all, yeah, sorry. Also, I thought I was reminded of people who've been talking about feeling exiled in this pandemic situation, and but at the same time, a lot of creative artists putting out incredibly positive music, and it is rather positive, isn't it? That piece.
yeah, so apparently he moved to the countryside because he had to um, not conduct orchestra, not work anymore, because he just couldn't hear. So he actually moved in with his one of his daughters, and so he was just in the countryside enjoying the beauty of the Czech countryside. So there is something about I think there is something about nature that makes you feel I don't know if it's like, the other day, I mean, we just moved to a new house. Speaking of being surrounded by nature, I looked at this wind blowing at our trees and I wanted to cry. It was so beautiful. So I feel like there's something that inspire you to just sort of like, just look at some of the the simplest things in life and just appreciate. And I feel like it's just like you and the world. And I feel like maybe that's what he was feeling. So that's why there was My Homeland, from my life, and then maybe he was also reflecting on maybe that was the end. Like it's both sad and beautiful. I mean, so much of the greatest music was born, sadly, from the biggest miseries of these composers' lives.
Yes, no, exactly. And yet it leaves us with something that still, at least for me, makes us feel incredibly positive, doesn't it?
Yes.
It's just wonderful. And I think that leads on just to a few words about the Bach. And I hope you can enlighten me with this, because my slightly foggy memory, I seem to remember that when Bach wrote what these six sonatas and partitas, he was also exiled. He was away, wasn't he, from his wife? I believe at the time, and he didn't realise that she was actually seriously ill and died while he was writing them. But there's something so, there's sort of grief in a way in that Chaconne, even though he couldn't have known what was going on.
Absolutely. Um, I was, it's so funny. I just taught a student earlier that played the chaconne for me, and and then so I talked to her about how, I wouldn't, she and I would not be the two people in the whole world, the first two people to be obsessed with the Bach chaconne. So, but basically, like I feel like the way Bach has this magic of writing music that make us feel him and feel ourselves so much. And so I was talking about when I had to speak about the chaconne for this performance, because I have like this overload of information about the Bach chaconne, and I had to like really pick and then try to keep it short. And then that was really hard. I actually had many takes that just went on and on. But I actually read this something that I thought was incredible that I didn't think of about the Bach chaconne, was from Arnold Steinhardt, who is a dear friend and an idol of mine for my whole life. And he talked about how he thought that the Bach chaconne had a lot to do with Bach's Christianity, his religious background, and so that he was seeing that about the Holy Trinity. And then so the number three, it's in the meter is in three, and then there are three sections: minor, major, minor, and then you also have this whole section that was this three repeating notes that becomes some of the motivic things. And so that was what he found out. And then and then I also share with my student what I found through one of my experiences of learning this, relearning this, that I thought the first part felt like all the suffering and the pain in the world, which is also something that we are feeling a lot these days. And then it's almost like when you get to the major, it doesn't feel positive really, but it felt like almost like, the way I explain it, it feels like maybe that's the explanation of the suffering and pain, because we shine through with our kindness and strength, and that it doesn't mean that suffering is easy, or it should be, but through a lot of suffering, then a lot of the biggest strength in people come out. And then of course then the end, the suffering comes back. But I mean the D minor comes back, but it's almost like it makes it more makes more sense. And then at the end the piece ends the way it begins, and it's just so powerful. It's almost like explains why. So it's like I feel like we would never know if that's what Bach felt.
No.
But then we could all try to see how it feels from our own heart, in our own experience. So
Exactly.
that's the
No.
only way I can say about that. That was
No,
long, sorry.
that's very moving, very interesting too. Thank you for those insights. I think we've got some questions coming in now. So
We do have a few.
yeah.
Okay. The first question, Cindy, is from Sandy Reitelman, who's a member of our board. She wants to know, what is the difference you feel as you play in having a live audience versus knowing that what you are playing will be heard by a virtual live audience? Do you think that it affects what we hear? We could certainly feel the passion of the Smetana, she says.
Oh, thank you. Hi, Sandy. You're probably somewhere. Hello. So, we play for ourselves in the practice room every day. So it's like, it's normal for us to be in that mode of playing for nobody. Just so, just a little reminder of that's what we do all the time. So, but it's kind of like talking to people. So when you share something with people, your feelings or whatever, if you're saying it to yourself, it doesn't mean you don't feel the same way. But when somebody's listening to you, it makes a very big difference. And so I can say that, I had that in mind when I was performing for Emptiness, but I knew that I will be heard, and that meant a lot to me. So that's, in the end, this performance was exciting. I mean, not only because my husband was listening, in the room helping to film, but also Reiko was listening, so it means a lot to have other people listen.
Indeed. I'm actually, before we get back to the other questions, I wanted to ask you about the project which you're working on at the moment, which I think links in with that. I know that you are doing concerts from your new home as a way to integrate yourself with the new community and all that. Would you like to tell everybody about that?
Something that I am just so excited to be planning right now, because, as we don't have, 50, 70 concerts a year, there's all this time left, and we gotta put ourselves to maybe hopefully some good use. And so we just moved, and then we actually we wanted to find a home that we can do some concerts at home. And because I have always been very interested in telling people about music, like I've been just now. so I'm actually thinking about, have been thinking about doing this for a long time, but then when the pandemic happened, it made sense more than ever. And so we really specifically look for a home that had an outdoor area that is beautiful, that we can do concerts and social distance. And we have a beautiful backdrop. And it is called Sun-Kissed Mozart, because we're in Northern California. So Mozart is sun-kissed and not sunburned, sunbathed, look for many sun-related words. And so this project will be presenting concert for people in the area. And, while there is so much happening online, like what I'm doing now, I can connect with people everywhere, which is just incredible experience for me to still be able to see you guys. But at the same time, I feel like I would love to feel your and their, hear people's live reaction and feeling the music together. And I was thinking, just jokingly, I wanted to do the complete opposite of what happens online these days, pre-recorded and then streamed and still exists. I want it to be something where people will sit there in our yard, and then there will be bugs and birds and all the sound. There will be the stars, however is clear that day, and then you enjoy all of your surrounding with the music that is played, and then after that's gone, it's gone forever. And
I have to say, it's a very beautiful yard, isn't it? We've both
stunning.
looked at the website, and I would encourage it. Maybe we can put up the link.
We'll ask the festival wizards to put that on our website.
skmozart.com, and all of us in Michigan and on the East Coast can be incredibly jealous of the natural beauty that's we've got some too, of course, but a different kind of
the same
Californian natural beauty that's behind you as a backdrop. But
you're not going to record that live concert, are you?
We kind of want to not, just so it's like, the music in its original form before recording exists, all the technology, once it's gone, it's gone. All the mistakes are gone, and you'll never be able to tell me I made that mistake, that kind of thing.
Fair enough.
All right.
Okay, the next question is from Maurice Oken, our boss, who asks, Cindy, I know you're also an excellent violist, As I listen to your Bach, I wonder how your approach would differ to play this work on the viola. Does your concept change as you go across the instruments?
I probably would never. Hi, Maury. Hi, Maury. I don't know where you are, but hello. I would never be able to play this on viola because this one has a big stretch, and then for me to do this on the viola, I wouldn't be able to. But in general, the registers have different tones, so every time I pick up the viola, it's as if I'm a different person. I actually feel like I'm a different musician. I mean, I analyze music and of course try to see music for just whatever it is, but I feel like when I pick up the viola, I have a different look on things. I have much wider vibrato, and I think so much more about the resonance over, you know, like in a different way, because you have to project in different ways. I feel like there are lots of things that are on violin just don't purely translate to viola and the other way around. So I would just say that I feel like I am two musicians. I mean, if someday I could play both at the same time, I would be very, very famous.
That would be a feat. That would be extraordinary. That's very interesting, actually. That to me as well, you know, and I've known many musicians over the years who play violin and viola equally in love, or even some violinists who actually love playing the viola but don't play it as often as you do. But it's very interesting. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say before that they feel like a different. Did you say you really felt like a different musician, or at least a different player when you pick up the viola? There's something about both instruments that appeals to different sides of your personality, perhaps? Is that's
for sure. I'll tell you one little joke. I mean, which is I hope no violist is listening to this or just hate me forever. So, you know, like how so I've played a lot of pieces on both violin and viola parts, and then so when I sit in rehearsal, when I am playing the first violin or the only violin part, like I am very like taskmaster. You know, I'm like gonna finish this movement, and then what time is it? And you know, it's like when I sit over on the viola side, I just chill and. I mean, I don't know why. It just happens. I just sit there and I wait for it, just, you know, like see what happens. And I would never be like, guys, let's move on to the next movement. We only have like 15 minutes. You know, I would never do that when I sit over at the violist. But when I'm on the violin part, I just automatically, I'm a taskmaster. So
that's fantastic. That's absolutely
Violinists are just inherently bossy.
Goodness me. Listen, Cindy, I think you should try the cello in that case, because if you're chilled on the viola, you will be absolutely horizontal when you play the cello. That's
someday.
Really, very, very funny. That's very, very. In fact, that reminds me of how many have we got?
It's fine. Go on.
Reminds me of an interview I read years ago with Simon Rattle, British conductor, who said that he knew his personality was suited to being a conductor because even after the concert, when he took friends out for a meal, he would be the one who would commandeer the ordering. If it was a large group of people, he'd be no, wait, no, hang on, no, we're gonna have 25 poppadoms, and then we'll start with some chicken tikka masala. And he just couldn't help doing that.
So that means he's a conductor everywhere.
Exactly. Well, look, actually, here's a little question that, because you can speak to this with practical experience. One of the things I've been doing over the last couple of days is getting ready a couple of Zoom lectures for the Emerson Quartet program that we have at Stony Brook, at the university out in Stony Brook, which has been really new for me. I've never actually spoken to people for more than sort of 10 or 15 minutes, or not answering questions like in an interview, but just presenting things about music. We're looking at string quartets, the history of string quartets. The day after tomorrow, we're going to look at some Mozart's quartets. And of course, it's so wonderful to think back that Mozart could play the violin and the viola, of course, and so could Haydn, and that they would both play the viola parts in Mozart's viola quintets. And it's no accident, is it, perhaps, that composers have always had an affinity for the viola too. And I was wondering if you felt, you've probably played a lot of Mozart on the violin and the viola. Do you feel that the great composers like Mozart, for example, that his writing for viola has a different personality from what you'd say, experience saying that in the violin sonata that you played tonight?
Well, it's from a so I'm a little critical of composers, and Mozart is actually my very, very favorite, and Mozart and Dvorak are my very, very favorite, and they're both violists. And actually, I think Smetana was also a violist. I think, or maybe because I did a little
It might have been his father. I think his father was a violist.
something like that,
Something
and
like
then
that. Yeah.
Britain, right? And then so there are quite of these composers that were violists, and I also think they're also great because they care about more than the melody.
Yes.
That's just come out a little rude,
but no. But it's not. They're not. They're not divas.
right. So because the the music is only greater when everything else is so beautiful. Like you can play a, a inner voice or a bass line of any of the greatest composers, Mozart, Beethoven, Schubert, Brahms, and Dvorak, all of these composers, and they would be beautiful. But then a lot of times when you just look at some works who I will not mention, but just sometimes when you look at the inner voices or the bass lines, they don't make sense for the person themselves. And so when they are not as organic to play for the other part, then they would not be as involved. You know what I mean? So it's like if there's one person that just plays the fun things on the violin, and the other people are like, like, well, that isn't, the music making just wouldn't be as good. Of course, it's part of the skill to maybe to try to be more involved or look involved, whichever. But I think in general, when you can find a way to it's like being a good leader when you can know what everybody's strength and can contribute and then really use it. And I think that's when composers really shine through. It is the best composers shine through is through having knowledge of being inner voice and being the bass line.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Should we go to Michael Morin's
I
question?
think I'm being told that we should have one more question and then probably wrap things up. Michael Morin, also from our board, asked, Cindy, which violin are you using and how do you choose the one that you will use?
Hi, Michael. Hello. So I play on the scarpella, which is my main instrument these days now. I still have the Montagnana, but the instrument is not as doesn't have as much range. So I mean, it doesn't mean for all Montagnana's instruments, just the particular one that I have. And I like I feel like a lot of times people think, oh, maybe the old is doesn't. Well, what I'm saying is that it's not automatically better just because it's old. And then every just like we have fantastic instruments that are being made like right now, and I have one instrument that I'm also waiting for, which will arrive next year from Sam Zygmuntovich.
Oh, of course. Yes.
And then so before we left New York, we got together many times to talk about what elements I like, and then he knew I sent him recordings of me on the Montagnana and on the scarpella and talk about what would be the next thing I would really love. So hopefully like every new instrument doesn't mean like new as in like a younger and made now, just whatever instrument I move on to next is always an upgrade and closer to what I'm looking for. So that's how I choose. And I just my scarpella is just more of what I need these days. So I use that most of the time now.
Excellent. That's great. Thank you. So I think I've got many more questions actually, but I know we're running out of time, unfortunately. But we must do this again sometime soon, definitely. Look, thank you so much, Cindy, and please thank Reiko too for her wonderful playing.
Absolutely,
It was really, one thing that I found absolutely marvelous was the incredibly quirky end of the Mozart sonata where he suddenly stops the action completely, get these incredible silences, and then a little duet between the right hand of the piano and the violin. Absolutely beautifully, not just together, it was felt in the same way. It was really, really wonderful. That was brilliant. Thank you so much for that.
Having me do this program.
No, we had a wonderful time, absolutely wonderful time. Before we sign off, I wanted to make special mention to Edward Treisman and also Beverly Baker, and I can see they're sitting there. There they are. Hello. Hi, Beverly. Hi, Edward. Happy birthday. I know it's happened already, but we want to wish you a wonderful 90th birthday year, and congratulations. Absolutely, that's absolutely wonderful. We want to thank both of you for your extraordinary support that you've given the festival. So here's a big round of applause, a virtual round of applause to both of you. In fact, I'm even going to toast you with a little bit of wine that Jen's brought up. Congratulations. I want to thank all of the festival sponsors and donors and benefactors for making another series of virtual vignettes possible. I'm very excited. We've got off to an amazing start, thanks to you, Cindy. I'm really excited. I'm going to tell you now about the next two very quickly coming up. The next vignette's coming on Wednesday, the 11th of November at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. That's going to feature the lyric tenor Nicholas Farn, who's a native of Ann Arbor, in fact, performs regularly with the world's leading orchestras and opera companies, and he's going to be joined by pianist Robert Mollicone of the San Francisco Opera, and they're going to perform works by two of my favorite composers, apart from Bach, Mozart, Beethoven, all of the rest, Henry Purcell and Benjamin Britten, flying the flag a little bit there for British Baroque music and also 20th century music, as well as traditional folk songs arranged by Britten. So please register now on the festival website for that. I'm very excited about that performance. That's something that Cindy and I could probably talk about for ages too. She played a wonderful performance of Lacrimé for us in our virtual festival that we broadcast in August. Britten, of course, being in some ways so closely linked to Mozart in terms of his compositional personality. Really just amazing, but we don't have time. But anyway, and then in January, in the new year, our next virtual vignette will feature Swiss-born American pianist Gilles von Sattel, who is a close friend of ours, a wonderful musician, incredibly deep thinking, versatile. He's going to be appearing with his wife, Metropolitan Opera violinist Sarah Crocker von Sattel, who was formerly a violinist in the Detroit Symphony Orchestra. I'm sure some of you will know her and recognize her and have questions for her. We're going to announce that January date shortly. And I'd just like to say that we are planning for a summer festival in June next year. With all the uncertainties that involves, we are maintaining a sense of cautious optimism and hoping very much that we can present something to you either in a live or a hybrid form. And that doesn't mean you have to sit in a car park for 10 minutes and plug your car in before you can go anywhere. We will give you something to remember. We just want to keep bringing the music to you because we are so grateful that you're all here in numbers listening to us and enabling us still to practice the art form that we love. So thank you very much once again for your support. Thank you again, Cindy, for an amazing program. We were just bowled over by it. And I'm going to go off and have my supper now and remember every note of that chaconne again. So thank you all very much, and we'll see you next time.